Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Let's Play Metroid Prime. I'm X Paradigm Gamer. And in the next part, actually, I want to do something real quick. I'll probably cut this out. I probably should have done this before starting the part, but, I digest. No, I apologize about that, but, when you're making an LP and your capture card decides to fuck up on you every once in a while, you need to make damn sure that, your footage records, and because of that, I don't want to, save the game until I'm absolutely sure that there are no problems, because I don't want to have to redo huge chunks of the game if I don't have to. But I digest. So yeah, so you want to use there was a cordite thing up there. You smash it open, then you can go through here. Now I'm gonna do that. Let's see, I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to just thinking to myself here. You want to go through this passageway here, and we're going to be coming upon something very important. I hoped I could find the lore that would help foreshadow this, but I guess I missed it. Not lore, but environmental research, scan, nonsense. Over here, pixelated shadow much? Good lord. This is the Wii version. Couldn't you have fixed that? I don't know, whatever. This here... If there is one boss in the game that really illustrates my point of just how tedious and repetitive they are, or they can be, rather, I don't think any of the bosses suck or are terrible or anything. No, it would have to be this one. Any of you guys seen Galaxy Quest? No? Yes? Maybe? This guy's always reminded me of, that rock monster from Galaxy Quest. It makes me wonder which came out first. I think Galaxy Quest came out in '99. I think. I don't know, I haven't really paid attention, but... looks very similar, doesn't it? Anyway, this guy is... let's scan him. Come on. This guy is Thardus, an animated sentient creature of stone charged with phazon radiation. The phazon radiation given off by Thardus negates auto-targeting systems, preventing lock-on. It may be possible to require alternative targets with a different visor. The chaotic nature of phazon radiation leads to instability of its structural integrity. Thardus can encase targets in ice, and its colossal size and strength make it a formidable opponent. Here's why this guy sucks. So what you need to do is you need to switch to your thermal visor and lock onto the glowy parts. After you shoot it enough, the phazon will be exposed. Or not. Sometimes when you blow up those... he'll throw stones at you, and if you hit them, sometimes they'll fuck up your visor and trick you into thinking you did it. No, I did it this time. Then the phazon will get exposed. Then you come around behind it, launch a super missile at it, and hope the other parts of his body don't hit it first. And if you get encased in ice, just mash the jump button and you're fine. I like how its leg is missing and it can still stand. Alright, so what it wants you to do in this part is go into morph ball mode to evade this guy, but the problem with that is that the camera doesn't really focus on him, so you never know where he is. So usually what I like to do is just strafe jump out of the way. Hopefully. Maybe. Shit. Yeah, it seems to be working so far. So, that's the strat. That's how this boss fights. You lock onto a glowy piece, you shoot it till it blows up, then you blow it up with the phazon up with the super missile. And you do that, I swear to Christ, 10 to 8 times, maybe. See, look at how much health he lost from doing one of them. I got 2 of them, and that's how much health I got out of him. This fight takes forever, or at least it feels like it does. I mean, there are some bosses later on that I guess I could count as worse, but, when you're fighting, Kraid in Super Metroid, it only takes, 4 super missiles to take him out. You might consider that as a relatively, repetitive boss strategy, boss whatever. But here, it's just target the thing, blow it up, lock onto it, shoot it with the super missiles, do that 6 more times, and maybe the boss will finally end. But once you get about a third of his health way done, he does change things up a little, but not really, because he undoes it later. He makes the ice and the air kind of swell around, which makes it harder to see with your combat visor. Finish up. Yeah, see? So now we can't see, but, you need to be using the thermal visor to hit his shit anyway, so it doesn't really affect anything, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it's just such a repetitive, tedious slog of a boss. I'm sorry. You know what? I think I'm going to go on record here and say that this is my least favorite boss in the game. The music that plays when you fight him is kind of nice. Depends on how much you guys can hear that, but as for the boss itself, I really just don't have much fun fighting this thing. It just takes too long. And there's a boss towards the end of the game that might rival it. Who knows? When I get to fighting that and, you know, like, practicing up for that, I might change my mind, but Thardus here is definitely one of my least favorite bosses in the game. He's just not a fun fight. I'm sorry. And like half the time, like your super missiles will miss him because his arm will just suddenly fly up in its pathway. Then he like rolls into a ball every 2 seconds, and you gotta wait for him to stop moving. God. I mean, like, he's kind of fun, I guess. Like, I am glad that it makes creative use of your weapons. I mean, like, I know that there are plenty of people out there who will be like, the boss is not hard, so therefore it's bad. I've never really been of a mindset that really matters so much. What matters to me is how creative the boss is. How it, like, makes you use your weapons and how it gets you to use your weapons in new and exciting ways. That to me is a mark of a good boss. And I can say that Thardus does have that. You know, like, you gotta use your super missiles, you gotta use your wave beam in your combat, or thermal visor if you want to beat him. But at the same time, you know, when you have to do that, like, when it takes like 10 minutes to fight a boss, and I think, you know, like, it kind of overstays its welcome a little bit. And like, you're always like running out of missiles like partway through. You know, like, you gotta shoot the rocks to get more, but the rocks, you know, I only got like 3 back. The good news is that once you get like 2/3 of his health, he'll make the ice fog go away. And that makes things a little easier, but not really. Still the same old shit. Lock onto the glowy part, shoot it until he feels like dying. He just went through that. He just clipped through that thing right there. Again, did I mention that Metroid Prime 1 had kind of a rocky development history? Like, this was Retro Studios' first game for Nintendo. They're a San Antonio, Texas-based company, I believe. Or maybe it was Houston. They're from Texas. And, they're famous for their art direction, and Nintendo approached them. They basically bought them out. This was around the time, I think, when they sold Rare to Microsoft. So I guess maybe they felt like, let's find another second-party company to do our bidding. And Retro Studios ended up being one of them. They proposed like 4 or so different games, and Nintendo turned all of them down, so they'd shit, we gotta find a project. And then I believe Miyamoto approached them and said, how would you guys like to make a first-person Metroid game? They said, like, sure, we'll do it. And so that's what ended up happening. A lot of people thought it was gonna suck, because again, there are a lot of people who just hate on FPSs just because they're FPSs, and there's a huge market demand for them. Super Missile is shit. But, you know, a lot of people figured, like, this game was gonna suck. But when it didn't, people really liked it. And, you know, it's a great game, so I can understand why. But, you know, at the same time, you can tell that this game, you can tell in, like, a couple of really, really brief spots that rocky development comes to the fore. When you see stuff clipped through things, when you see, like, some of the lighting, like, for the most part, it's a really solid, not glitchy game at all, but it has its moments. Like that, right there. You can see Samus clipping through the sides of the ball here. This is the Spider Ball. If you've ever played Metroid 2 on Game Boy, you know that in that game, you could use the Spider Ball to latch onto walls, on any wall in the game, and use it to fly around and stuff. And I'd really like to see them bring that back in the next 2D game, if they ever make one. If they ever make a new Metroid game ever. Because, honestly, like, it's been too long. Like, they need to make a new one already. Like, the last game we had was Other M, for Christ's sakes. And even though I still maintain that that game is okay, decent, like the bare minimum for what I consider a decent Metroid game, you know, like, it's not exactly the best place to leave us hanging, you know? Like, there are a lot of people out there who, like, insist that, you know, Other M killed the Metroid franchise, and while I don't necessarily agree with that, you know, we need a new game. And what I honestly would like to see is I'd like them to take the Link Between Worlds direction. Because like that worked out really well. The game sold really well, got really good reception. Obviously, people really enjoyed Link Between Worlds. Do something similar for Metroid. Bring back the old 2D style that everybody liked so much. Bring back, the 2D game style, but make it 2.5D like Link Between Worlds. And I think that game would sell relatively well if it were made. I mean, and if you keep the story elements to a minimum, that'll satisfy everybody who hated Other M. I think that would work out really well. That would be a nice step to take. The reason why Metroid isn't selling well, we're gonna do this puzzle here before we, I don't know. We can see here that there's this piston thing. It's connected to 3 of those little wall wave beam charge up points thingamajiggers that I don't exactly know what their official name is. And you hit them, they power up, and then they'll activate this puzzle here. But as I start to think more about it, I start to realize just how much Other M did wrong. Just even since I've made the review. And that might be a game I have to revisit someday, maybe for a playthrough. Because I don't know, I don't know exactly if my review did it justice, and that was a 20-minute long review too. That was a decent length review of Other M too. For a while, it was my longest review until I got into Mario, and frankly, may have overstayed my welcome. But as I said in that series of reviews, I didn't just want to do a 5-second Screw Attack video game vault style review of Super Mario Bros. When this game released, it was the best game ever, so therefore it's the greatest game of all time. No. Did I need to go in as much detail as I did? Maybe not. But did I need to explain why Mario was why the classic Mario games still hold... Like I was saying earlier about, DKC1, and about how people will make this quote-unquote wow factor argument. DKC1 is the best because it was the one that, swept us off our feet. It was the one that... It did something we had never seen before. Alright, that's great, but does that really matter 20 years later? I mean, in this day when we have HD and 1080p, is it really that big of an achievement anymore that someone had the bright idea to take pictures of 3D models and then use them as 2D sprites in the game? It was impressive for its time, definitely, and I'm going to scan this real quickly so I don't forget. Puddle Spore, sentient floating lava mollusk protected by an impenetrable shell. Puddle Spore opens when approached, attempting to intimidate with its size. When opened, direct fire in its mantle causes it to flip over into a defensive position. If it can slam shut, it ejects a spread of harmful energy globules. So if you played Super Metroid, you might see that this guy looks sort of like Spore Spawn, the boss from Upper Brinstar. That had its yeah, but when I was playing Mario, that's an example of a game that I think is just good on its own merits. I don't like Super Mario Bros. 1 because it was revolutionary 25 years ago. I like it because it's a good game. That's... A lot of people seem to be so wrapped up in, the legacy of the game and what it was like at the time. And obviously, people will have, nostalgic attachments to games. That's not uncommon at all, but... When I reviewed those games, I wanted to explain, why they were still good, why they're still worth your time to play, why they've aged well, why they have not aged well in some aspects. And, I couldn't properly express that in a 5-minute review. And again, I'm kind of singling out Screw Attack here, because... Boy, I don't hate them like Ethan does, but at the same time, from the little he's told me of how they review stuff, I'm not very impressed at all. I've seen some Video Game Vault videos, and those are the sort of videos I don't want to try to make because they just say, it's good because it's old, so therefore it's good. Using my whiny bitch voice there. That review. But, we're running a little late in this part, but, since I cut out that chunk at the beginning of the save station, I'll probably leave all this in. At this point, I should probably explain what the hell we're doing. Now that we have the spider ball, we cannot proceed further into Phendrana Drifts until we get a power-up we do not currently have. So in order to get it, we're going to have to backtrack to the Chozo Ruins, which is not too far from here. Like, we're pretty close. Pretty close. And, you know, once we do get back, we're going to grab that power-up. We'll probably grab some equipment that we couldn't get earlier because we didn't have the Spider Ball or the Double Jump. We'll probably grab some of that stuff now, just on our way back. You know, like, at this point in the game, because we have so much new shit, backtracking isn't as big of a deal because you can grab stuff you couldn't get before. So, you know, like, at this point, the backtracking kind of stops being as sucky. And, like, there's a little more free reign to explore at your own leisure. So, you know, like, once you get past the first third or so of the game, it doesn't feel... the backtracking kind of stops being sucky. Now, that doesn't mean that it wasn't sucky at one point, and that I'm going to let that affect my opinion of the game as a whole, but you know what, it's still, it gets better. It stops being, you know, like, especially once you get used to it. But, you know, at any rate, I think here would be a good place to stop since we're relatively close to the Chozo Ruins. So in the next part, we're going to be heading back to the Chozo Ruins and grabbing a new important power-up. So, until then, I'm X Paradigm Gamer, and I'll see you guys next time.